Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. Actually, it's a special edition of the Gridiron Report here at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, where the Cowboys play, of course. Texas Tech was just a participant in the second of two Big 12 media days. And, you know, look, Big 12 media days, all these conference media days, there's not like a lot of breaking news or crazy news coming out, but there are some things that we're able to confirm. We did get to talk with Coach Wells, of course, a couple of times. He was very generous with his time. And then a couple of senior leaders in linebacker Rico Jeffers and center Dawson Deaton. And all those guys, they were well-spoken. They represented Texas Tech very well. And there were a couple of things that kind of, well, they did. They grabbed my attention about what all those guys had to say about the upcoming season. So I think the main thing, and I think this is number one important, is the injury updates. And there are some really important injury updates to some really just critical players for the Red Raiders coming up in the fall, starting with running back Jarret Johnson and all Big 12 receiver Eric Ezukama. I mean, look, those are probably your two biggest skill position guys outside of quarterback. And, I mean, both of them got hurt right before the spring game, major injuries. Roderick had that shoulder injury. EZ broke his arm. And I think Coach Wells, he's really intimated that he feels very confident that EZ will be able to play in probably the whole season. He re-intimated that again today here at Media Day. He said he thinks EZ is going to have a monster season. His offseason has gone very well. No major setbacks. And no major setbacks with Sir Roderick as well. And I don't know if he's going to play in that. What figures to be, I'm going to get to that here in a minute, really important and critical season opener against Houston at NRG Stadium. They're in Houston, but it sounds like even if Sirajic doesn't play in the opener, he's not going to miss a ton of time. Sounds like his rehab is going well. But it's not just those two guys. Reggie Pearson, a hard-hitting safety who transferred in from Wisconsin. He's a guy who he wasn't cleared for a couple of years at Wisconsin, but he's been cleared by both Texas Tech doctors and an independent doctor. And, man, if they can add him to that secondary, which was already bolstered by some really impressive transfers, then, I mean, he can be one of your top players on your team, which that's saying something. And I asked Coach Wells about Reggie Pearson, how he looked, and he goes, that's how he looks so far for us, as a hard-hitting safety. That's the role we expect him to play here at Texas Tech. And he added, I didn't bring him in here to have him standing next to me on the sideline. He's going to play. So that's really exciting. That's really good news. I can't wait to see Reggie Pearson in fall camp. Coach Wells even added that he looks like a thick running back out there. So that's good that he's running that well and looking that good early on in his time at Texas Tech. A couple other guys, just the guys that were here. Dawson Deaton, he was limited in spring ball. He said from a shoulder injury. He said he's 100%. Rico Jeffers, same thing. He had a monster year last year, and the injuries really slowed down the last couple of games, but he was on his way to an all Big 12 caliber season before injury slowed him, and he told me he's ready to go. They have unfinished business. And anytime I asked Rico anything about individual, about him personally, he always would answer with something with the team. And he said he and a lot of these other guys who came back for their super senior or COVID senior, second senior season, it was because they felt like they left some unfinished business on the gridiron last year, and that they feel like they could have a really good year. So I think a big part of that is getting some of these other transfers in. Tyler Shuck, I think that's another thing to me. Like, the quarterback battle is something that I think a lot of fans are asking about, but I think in our minds, at least in my mind, Tyler Shuck's the guy. But you have some other options that you really like. I think Henry Colombi played well in spurts last year, and he had a very good spring. So there's some good news there. I think a lot of the skill positions, they're looking better than they have in a long time. So I think that's the reason for the optimism, along with those, like Rico said, those super seniors coming back. I mentioned the opener against Houston. I asked Coach Wells here in his breakout, point blank, hey, Coach, a lot of the conversations I've had with people this offseason have centered around, there's optimism, but man, that opener against Houston could be the critical game of the season for a number of reasons. And he didn't say that it was the most critical game, which of course as a coach, how can he? But he did admit there are a lot of things with that game. Just the fact that so many of the guys on both rosters played against each other growing up in high school. It's going to be at NRG Stadium, at NFL Stadium. It's going to be on ESPN, primetime, all that. And he didn't even mention, but a lot of the former Tech players transferred to Houston. So you're going to be playing a lot of former teammates at Tech. So, and then just the fact that the rest of the non-conference really Texas Tech should win, which would set you up so well for conference play. So to me, and a lot of the conversations I've had with people, is that opener against Houston is critical. It could be the most critical game, which sounds crazy because it's a non-Power 5, non-conference game. But, I mean, there's just a lot riding on that game, and it could really set the team up for a lot of success next season. I think another thing that really jumped out about today here at Media Day for Texas Tech is how much Coach Wells believes in his coordinators. Keith Patterson, the defensive coordinator, has been with Coach Wells for a while now, and he really it wasn't like false bravado. I really believe him, and I believed him today when he says this, that he likes Patterson in terms of personality, the amount of trust he has with him. He likes him as X's and O's, as a recruiter, all of it. And what he likes most about Coach Patterson, after the loyalty, is that he does have a chip on his shoulder, like a lot of the guys within the Texas Tech program. So he likes Patterson, and then he mentioned Cumbie, how many things he likes about him. But what really stood out was that he said the reason why he chose Cumbie was for his work with quarterbacks. I think there's been such a concerted effort this offseason for Texas Tech to improve at the quarterback position, and rightfully so, not just with Tyler Shuck, but certainly with Tyler Shuck, but also Donovan Smith getting healthy. Baron Morton, of course, coming in, 4-star guy. I mean, they have improved the talent at that position, and then you got to bring in somebody to mold it and to guide that talent, and that's where Sonny Cumbie comes in. He knows Texas Tech. He knows about quarterback play. He knows about coaching quarterback play in the Big 12, so he's a perfect fit. And I think that was really interesting to hear him to admit those things that you feel like but it's big difference between feeling like and knowing what you know. So those are the main things. And then I think ultimately, finally, it's what we've all said this whole offseason, is that it's obvious that everyone at Texas Tech, including Coach Wells, knows that they've done a lot of things well, all right? But they are coming off back-to-back 4-win seasons. Now, of course, last year was 4 wins in 10 games, but still, back-to-back 4-win seasons. There's not a lot of patience remaining. It's obvious that the last thing left for this coaching staff and this program to do is to win ball games, stack ball games. So I think it's critical, and this is not rocket science. This didn't just come from Media Day, but it was reiterated, is that they have to win ball games. They have to find a way to close out those close games. They have to at least get to a bowl game and do some things to where they feel like they've built a foundation. And that was just really hit home and was reiterated here today at Big 12 Media Day. So with that, that's my recap of Texas Tech's day here at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. I want to thank you for watching, and